Critical Frames, a PlayStation podcast, is available on all mainstream audio and video feeds. Find out how you can support the show by heading over to patreon.com/criticalframes.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Frames Plus, your supplementary extra episodes that are for patrons only that come to you at a later time if you're on regular feeds. This one's a little bit behind, but we've finally shown up to cover Ghost of Tsushima. What do we think about it? How good is the game? Were the reviews correct? We've done Final Fantasy VII. We've done The Last of Us. So Ghost of Tsushima, it only feels right as we go through some of the biggest heavy hitters on PlayStation. But yeah, so Joe played this game, I believe, the year it came out, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I just beat it a month or two ago
Yep.
for the first time. Neither of us have really played the DLC. I played like an hour of the DLC, but we both finished the game.
Mm-hmm.
I played on PS5. You played on PS4, it sounds like.
Yes, I've beat it on PS4. I have tried the PS5 version, but I've just not had time to play that version. So
yeah. Okay, so Ghost of Tsushima, to kick us off, came out on PS4 July 17th, 2020. It came out to a Metacritic score of 83 out of 100, and then the PS5 edition came out years later with less critic reviews and resulted in 87, so a little bit higher. But usually when people look at the scores for history, they go with the original platform, usually, so PS4 would be where we look.
Yep.
83 for Ghost of Tsushima. We're going to kind of discuss how we feel about that, the pros and cons of the games, what we liked, what we didn't like, and then I'm sure we'll just get into kind of what our experiences were like playing this game for the first time. But I don't know, Joe, before I go on, I mean, let's pass it over to you. I mean, what is your broad level? Where do you stand with the quality of this game? How much do you like it? How do you feel about it compared to the score? Take us through it.
Yeah, well, I'll say first and foremost, I think that score is unduly low for what actually was given to us. I mean, this game, even on the PS4, I think this is like a near perfect Sony game in many ways, like alongside like The Last of Us and God of War and stuff like that for me personally. And I mean, from the get-go, just like I remember when the trailer came out and it looked absolutely gorgeous, where it was just like Jin like riding through fields and he was like fighting the odd Mongol invasion, squad, I would say. I don't know, like a group, like sort of pillaging and murdering, innocent civilians and stuff on the island of Tsushima. And yeah, it just looked absolutely amazing. And the first time I saw it, I was like, dude, like this game is doing everything that people have wanted from Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft for so long, and now I don't care about Assassin's Creed anymore because this is exactly what we've wanted.
It's just what they've been trying for years, but done better in every way. Yeah.
And when it came out, it was one of the most mind-blowing experiences I've ever played. Like it was like completely filled with so many different options at the time, like Kurosawa mode, and obviously like, I mean, at the time the Japanese dub for like, the voice acting in the Japanese dub lip sync to the English when it came out, which was a bit weird, but it was cool that you could play it in Japanese, and it was massively inspired by Kurosawa's, amazing cinematography way back when, and it just oozed a sense of style that, again, like a lot of us on Sony at the time came to expect. It was in that period of like, okay, The Last of Us Part 2, The Last of Us, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man. And it was that sleuth of just hit after hit after hit after hit after hit, and it felt amazing at the time. It really did. So yeah, I was just blown away by it at the time. So
where would you put it on Metacritic? Like, where are you at?
I would say like 90, 91, I would say, something around there. Like, it's got to hit 90, I think, personally. It's a 9 out of 10, easily. Like, there's no...
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm actually on the same... I feel differently than Joe, but I'm actually on the same page as Joe at the same time. So I think the Metacritic is low. 83 for this game seems wild. To me, this is like a certified 90, like, for sure.
Yeah, baseline.
I don't understand that. Like 83 is what I would expect maybe a good Assassin's Creed to get, but this is that elevated.
Yes.
So I don't know where people missed the mark on this one, but I'm in a 90. So the interesting thing is, and top level, I love this game. I had a great time. It really surprised me how good it was. 9 out of 10. But it's interesting, and this maybe might surprise Joe a little bit. I don't think I've talked about it too much. So initially I wasn't really interested in Ghost of Tsushima. I thought, this is going to be a game that's kind of plays like Neo, which it doesn't at all. It has nothing to do with Neo. So I kind of put it off for a while. My wife got it for me for Christmas because I asked for it. And then when she gave it to me, I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to play this. So I didn't. Yeah. And then she played it, and it became one of her favorite games. She platinumed it. And it kind of sat on my hard drive for years, and I didn't play it. And finally, I'm just like, I got to play this.
Yeah.
I think I might like it. One of the things that really put me off is I was like, there's stances, and there's, what do you call the little circles at the bottom? It's not poise. It's,
I just remember it being like gauge or something like that. Was it?
Well, you have like the little, every time you're doing well, you get these little circles at the bottom. Yeah, the
little circles, yeah.
It's not poise, but the circles and the stances made me think, I'm not going to like this game because it's got this convoluted combat. And then I play the game and I realize there's nothing convoluted about this combat at all. It's literally just your typical, like really good, high quality kind of resolve. Yeah. So you have your resolve, but that basically is just like what other games would say is like your magic or your power points.
Yeah, your mana.
And then the stances, I mean, I would borderline say stances are required, but they're not really required. They're just ways to quickly press a button and take on certain enemies more efficiently.
Yeah.
So initially I thought, it's going to be like, having really hard bosses and not being able to beat them unless you're in the proper stances. And then this resolve thing is going to be really annoying. And it just turned out to be just like a standard open world kind of hack and slashy game, but with really good combat. So very quickly, I'm like, holy shit, this game's amazing. Why'd I wait so long to play it? The way that it recreates this time period in Tsushima and like the what, Surikawa? Am I saying it right? And I messed it up. Surikawa, not Surikawa.
Who are we talking about? Sorry.
The mode, the black and white mode is named after him.
Akira. Oh, you made me forget now.
I screwed it up. I mixed two words together.
Yeah, Kurosawa.
Yeah.
Kurosawa,
yeah.
There we go.
The way that everything's themed, like after how Kurosawa did like the cinematic style, fell in love with this game, started talking to Joe, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Joe, this game's amazing. I was like, every side activity's fun. The world's beautiful. I never get bored. The story's amazing. Also, full spoilers for this episode if it's not clear, guys. The whole concept of like in real life, there was a storm that took out the Mongols before they were able to do anything serious. And that your character, Jin, basically is the storm that took out the Mongols. Like such a cool, unique concept. I was telling Joe early on, I'm like, this might be my favorite PlayStation exclusive. And played through the game. It never got boring. I was excited to go back to it. Beat the story. Absolutely adored how it ended and the conclusion with your uncle. Nothing really bad to say about this game, but here's the interesting part that'll surprise Joe. As I got away from this game, as weeks went on, and maybe I might be coming up on 2 months since then.
Don't say it, right?
It's not really bad. It's just that my lasting memory of Ghost of Tsushima was mostly doing an endless amount of checklist things.
No!
That's my lasting memory of Ghost of Tsushima. Now, it's two things. It's that, and it's how it ended. Okay. Where it's like you went against your honor and your code to save Tsushima, and your uncle wanted to adopt you a son and make you his heir, but you did what you thought was best for Tsushima, and you went against your honor, and then in the end, you had to fight your uncle and choose whether to kill him in honor or let him live in dishonor. And so really it was the ending and the checklisting that stays in my memory. And the thing is, the checklisting, like that always sounds like a derogatory term because we usually use it that way. I don't think of it negatively at all. This was some of the most fun I've ever had in doing the checklist because every activity was fun. It wasn't boring and repetitive. But I do think that Ghost of Tsushima would have been a stronger game if it was more focused on that narrative experience that it offered, because it was such an amazing narrative experience that there was often times where I would play for days and not advance any story because I am doing an encampment, I'm cutting bamboo, I'm chasing a fox, and it's like that's so awesome that there was so much game content there for me, and I had so much fun with it. But like, it does water down a little bit the amazing story that's there. So I think that's what actually keeps me from a 10 out of 10 more so than, I give it a 9 because it's got that amazing story. It's got that amazing combat, audio design, music, graphics, art design, side quests. Everything is so awesome. But I guess for a comparison, like where The Witcher 3 side content lifts the narrative, you could say that Ghost of Tsushima side content lifts the narrative. You could say that. Like, I don't want to sound like I don't want to be unfair to the game, but the way that Witcher 3, it lifts the narrative because all the side quests, like the main thing that's great about Witcher 3 side quests is the narrative of the side quests.
Yep.
It's the dialogue, it's the characters, it's the little stories that's building out the world of The Witcher and the things that are going on. Where Ghost of Tsushima's side quests are so good, really isn't. Sometimes it can be, but for the most part, it's not really in the narrative of the dialogue. It's in the quality of the gameplay, how much fun it is. Like, I would actually say Ghost of Tsushima does a lot better job of Witcher 3 when it comes to having fun, having like gameplay fun in the side quests.
Yep.
But it lacks a bit on the narrative side. So by the end of Ghost of Tsushima, it feels like all the side stuff's watering down the narrative a bit, where in Witcher 3, it feels like it's bolstering it and enhancing it. So I do think that's I don't even know. Like, I could say that's a negative, but I don't know. Is it really a negative that I had an additional 30 plus hours of amazing side content? And like, I would still say, like, if you're asking me, like, what are some of examples of the best side content in video games? I would say Witcher 3 and Ghost of Tsushima. And I'd say Witcher 3 for narrative, and I'd say Ghost of Tsushima for like actual fun, engaging side content. So, I do think that. And the thing is, it's funny because I'm always the guy who's like, I'm just going to mainline this game and skip all the side stuff. And I think that mainlining this game and skipping the side stuff may have made the story sing even more.
Yep.
But I didn't want to do that because the world and the side quests were so good. So I didn't do that. And it really didn't, as much as I'm saying like it watered down the story, it didn't hurt the story at all. It just made it seem less, when you think of like The Last of Us Part 1, you think of that story. It's very tight and focused, and you know the plot beats and it's all there.
Yep.
It feels like The Last of Us 1, but then like kind of spread apart with stuff thrown in between all the big parts. And that can hurt the strength of the narrative as far as its density and how hard it punches you. Because I feel like as I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, it would like the narrative would punch me, and then for 10, 15 hours, nothing would happen, and then it would punch me again, and then 10, 15 hours, nothing happened. And then it leaves me with that amazing ending. So that's really, I did say, I clarified, as I always do when I'm in the hype of something. I told Joe, I'm like, I think this might be my favorite PlayStation exclusive, but could be the hyperbole.
Yeah.
It was definitely the hyperbole. I like God of War better. I probably like Last of Us more, but I definitely like God of War and Ragnarok better than this. And then of course Bloodborne I like more. But so this is up there. I don't think it makes it in my top 50, which is crazy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was like, oh, this is going to be top. I don't think it makes my top 50. But another thing that, and this is not a criticism, this is just a me thing, is I think that stories that are supernatural stick with me more.
Right.
And Ghost of Tsushima, I mean, somebody could probably go in here.
Historical, let's be honest.
It's purely historical. People could probably go like, well, it's kind of supernatural how your one dude took out like 2,000 guys, the whole army. But no, it's really not. It's grounded.
The basis is within historical grounding. Yeah, 100%.
It's like we're like like with like God of War, I'm attached to like the Norse or the Greek lore and this and that, or like Nier I've been playing. I'm like the background of everything. Yeah, I like fantasy, and this is grounded and real, and I would not change it if I could. I know like the multiplayer for this game, I'm pretty sure does get into the supernatural from what I've heard.
Yes, it does. It's quite interesting. It takes like a left field approach to it. It's still got the historical stuff in it, but like you're all kind of, as far as I remember, you've all got powers of like some ghosts in it in many ways, and you're all channeling that individually. And in the multiplayer, you have every character that you pick has one stance. Like you can't switch between the stances.
So it makes him more like a hero.
Yeah, like a hero slasher in many ways, for lack of a better term and stuff. And it's cool, but
I mean, I've heard people say that was like one of Sony's best live service games that wasn't live service. It was just multiplayer and awesome. So.
I played it for a good amount of time, maybe like 10 hours or something, and it's hella fun. Like really, really good. I didn't play it much, but yeah, I did enjoy it. But I wonder, like, the thing with Ghost of Tsushima's like side quest, or just in general, Ghost of Tsushima's design, is that from the get-go when they were developing this game, they put massive emphasis on like having negative space. Because they looked at, like, you know, the architecture of Japan at the time, the buildings, the way the land was, especially on a small island like Tsushima with, you know, a lesser population. And they kind of had to like replicate that negative space, like tidy rooms, tidy buildings, tidy streets, tidy, you know, all this stuff, but ultimately make it feel like alive and lived in and stuff. And like, I feel like that whole design infrastructure, I mean, the co-founder spoke about that. That whole design infrastructure potentially bleeds into the way even the quests are designed and stuff, because by you innately not having much in the environment to pull from, you innately make sort of empty space in your side quests. You know, it's a lot of like just fighting Mongols on the path or ambushing and, you know, loads of different outposts and stuff. And I think Ghost of Tsushima, very similarly to things like Death Stranding for me personally, is it's a game that has it's very emotional in terms of it wants you to experience and feel more so than it wants you to like analyze and critique and get into the minutia of all like the objective design tentpoles that are happening. I mean, it's a game that literally is one of the like tertiary sort of activities. You are literally doing a haiku. Like there's nothing challenging there. There's nothing you know, mechanically in depth. There's nothing exactly.
It's just cinematic,
like,
really.
It's just cinematic and stuff. And I feel like every part of this game just came from Kurosawa's style, and also that innate design of like, okay, well, because originally they were looking at like Three Musketeers, they were looking at a pirate adventure based in history, and then they obviously read up on the Mongol invasion of Tsushima Island and was like, that's a sick basis for what we want. That's it. It clicked. I think because of that, this game can kind of lean a little bit too much into like, well, these side quests and a lot of this stuff feels like it's empty and it feels a bit sparse comparatively to what the narrative holds, which is very full of, you know, objectives and gameplay and, you know, sneaking around and stuff and characters. Yeah, it's really it's chock-a-block full. But then when you go back, like you said, when you go back to the side quests and stuff and the world outside of that, it feels like there's not much going on. But that's I think the one of the strong sides of it as well at the same time, depending on the player you are. And I think it's a combination of things that makes this better than an Assassin's Creed game. Like all the tasks are fun and they don't feel like flags on the map that you have to clear. And there's just so much, like, it feels like in every corner of Ghost of Tsushima, they took the development polish up a notch. Like, if this was Assassin's Creed, there would just be like a compass pointing the direction you go. But in Ghost of Tsushima, you swipe the touchpad and wind literally blows in the direction of your goal. And that seems like it might be kind of like, oh, well, what's the point? It's not needed. But when you play the game, that wind really does help bring you into the world and make you feel like you're really there. Like, Yep.
And it's done beautifully. It's not like you just swipe it and there's like 3 lines in the air. It's like it blows the trees, the grass, your hair. That wind is really there in the world.
Yeah.
There's some stuff like that, and then there's like you mentioned, like the haikus. It's like this doesn't really serve any purpose much for story or gameplay mechanics, but it's an activity that it feels cinematic and it gives you the spirit and the soul of the world you're in. It's emotional almost.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I do a haiku and it's just like, I don't even, I'm just like, oh God, it's so beautiful.
Well, it especially hits when you go from like doing a really pivotal point in the narrative to those slow moments. I mean, again, like I'm going back to the side quest thing and the empty space. It's like when you go from that to the side quest, it's like, this is a nice respite from it all. And it, like, for me personally, it blended so seamlessly and smoothly that many games don't do that. I always talk about like The Last of Us as being one of the most perfectly paced video games of all time because it like goes from crazy moments of like, you know, Henry and Sam dying to then just like wandering to the quarry area, you know, to Jackson area to find your brother. And then this is kind of the same way, just in an open world setting. It's like it goes from you've just slaughtered an entire potential invasion of a Mongol army with like a new ability. You know, like the ability when you like gain that one hit kill thing and you like get angry and the screen goes red, if I remember correctly, right? Like, and the guy like Jin's like, come here then, and he's like goes full on crazy at everyone.
Yeah,
like you go from that to then like kind of just chilling out, and it's like, I need this, I need it, and it's perfect. So
I went beast mode, and now I need to chill, you know, I need to pull my butt cheeks out and get some hot water, you know.
Yeah, dude, yeah, it's sick.
No, it's I don't know. I feel like for like Ghost of Tsushima 2, I would have not much else I would ask for than other just give me more of Ghost of Tsushima 1. But like, I know what I want would never fly, and I think you could do well to cut 25% of the fat off of the side content, like shave it off. But in the game industry we're in today, like people see the more content, no matter what it is, as like dollar value. And if they said that, or it became evident that Ghost of Tsushima 2 had less side stuff to do than the first game, people would feel robbed or they'd ask for more.
Sure. Yep.
And I mean, it's a fine balance because I do feel like I played Spider-Man 2 and like Marvel Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation, and I was like, when I beat it, I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And because the first Spider-Man, just the main story was longer.
Yep.
And there's you can complete all the content in Spider-Man 2 a lot quicker than Spider-Man 1. And like Spider-Man 2 tells an effective story, and it's got high production values, and it's fun, and it can be beaten in less than 20 hours.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I always ask for, but then sometimes it misses the mark still. Like Spider-Man 2 just didn't feel as complete as the first game did. It felt like closer to Miles Morales to me. It was bigger than Miles Morales, but not enough to really feel significant. So with Ghost of Tsushima 2, they probably do need to keep as much side content, but maybe there's a way they could make it be a little more, I don't want to say meaningful, because like I said, I never got tired of the ghost side content in the first game. But like maybe, I don't know, maybe mix up the type of things that are happening, because while I never got bored, Joe kind of mentioned it first, the reality is almost all side content is you fighting.
Yep.
And almost all of the main content is you fighting. So it's kind of odd that you can put 100 hours in this game and realistically you're mostly just fighting, but it's not boring.
Even one of the tertiary objectives alongside the haiku is literally using your sword to chop bamboo. It's it's rooted in combat.
There's just not much there. I mean, you can get in the hot springs, but that hot springs is borderline just another version of the haiku. I mean, it's not, but it is.
Yeah.
So they could find ways to, I mean, I know there's like a part in, I think it's only in the DLC actually, but maybe that paints a picture of the direction they're going. In the DLC, there is where you can do like archery ranges where you, in a quick enough time, you're trying to, shoot targets, but that's still combat. So, I mean, if there was a way that you could do like, foot races or like climbing races where you climb the walls at a certain time. I can't remember. Was there any horse races in this game? I can't remember.
No, not as
like
far
a horse
as I'm aware,
race would be something, or introduce something like a Gwent or a Queen's Blood, where there's like some kind of card game or dice game or something.
It's challenging, right? Because
just mix it up more.
If you lean into that too much, though, you get a sense of like ludonarrative dissonance with the sense of urgency, and like Bethesda games have this like abundant, right, where it's like Fallout 4, prime example.
Save your son.
Save your son, save Sean, and it's like, okay, right, cool, and then it's like, but you got to be a general of the Minutemen, and you've got to like restore is it not Good Springs? What's the main town in
Radiator Springs, or is that's Cars, the movie, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
No. Ka-chow. No. It's like it's Sanctuary. Sanctuary, right?
Sanctuary, and like I got to build a fort before I go find Sean.
Yeah. Because Good Springs is New Vegas, and Sanctuary, I think, is Fallout 4. That's the first.
And Radiator Springs is Cars.
And Radiator Springs is Cars. Fallout Cars on the way, 2027.
Please do not put Tow Mater in Fallout. I will not. be about that at all.
Game of the year. Yeah. So like that game has problems with it. You know, where it's like, yeah. The funniest thing about like Fallout 4, not to tangent on this too long, is like you can spend if you're a player, you could spend so long doing all the side content content in Fallout 4 that by the time you meet your dad, or not your dad, your son, who is the age that your dad should be, in the Institute, you could probably understand that you haven't been in cryosleep, but you actually just spent all that time in the world just wandering around. Because
like, you were a kid when I got out of cryo, but you grew up while I was building my fortress.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing with Ghost of Tsushima too, right? Like if they go too far into all like if they take it full on Yakuza or Like a Dragon, where there's just mini games everywhere on every section of the street, it's like we have got a Mongol invasion happening here still. Like we've only defeated the first force. Like let's we've got a problem. Or if they go with the other narrative, which is he's being hunted by his own people, that could be dope. Like I think that you know what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I think something interesting to think about here is like you have not replayed this, correct?
No, I've replayed like the first 10 hours, I would say.
Okay. Erica has also replayed like the first 10 hours and then she stopped. And I think there's, with Ghost of Tsushima, and I feel this way already, having only beat it once recently, is you love the game and you want to return to it, but then when you return to it, you realize I'm not really going to want to play this game unless I'm clearing out all the side stuff in these big open maps. And then if the game is too familiar to you, it quickly becomes, well, I'm 10 hours into this. I've got another 60, 70 to go. I don't know if I want to do this again. I remember the story. I remember the characters.
Yeah.
And like, I could skip the side content, but that's not the way I want to play the game. And well, you could say, well, that's a lot of games, Brian, but like, I don't know. I feel like Joe plays Witcher 3 a lot and you don't have problem as much with that. Like you do
8 times
play it. Yeah. So I feel like maybe, and you know, we always mention how Ghost of Tsushima is like the best Ubisoft game. Maybe this is like this was their one chance to do what they did and have all this content that is, even though it's better, it's done better than Assassin's Creed. Like it's very checklisty. Maybe they need to not do the exact same thing again for the second game, or it could become a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, just mixing it up a bit. I think personally cutting out some, or maybe, you know, if people don't like, you know, oh, there's less side content for the second game, maybe make the main story more of your focus to where the main narrative is a 30-hour narrative.
Yes.
And you have 20 hours of side content versus 20 hours of main content and 50 hours of side content.
Yes. So, yeah, like really expand the reach of your narrative. You know, like I talk about The Last of Us Part 2 and stuff, like with somewhat dismay, but like that game took its narrative and made it bigger, right? And people that like that and stuff. And that was a positive for them and all that. And it could go very similar with Ghost of Tsushima, where like obviously it's not the same kind of comparison because Last of Us 1 really didn't have any side content at all, except for collectibles. But you could have it so you have a 30 to 40 hour narrative, you know, like a God of War Ragnarok, you know, like that, like really expand that open world, you know, open up different islands potentially, you know, that you go to in the main story and stuff. And, you know, they could play with it to an obscene level. Like you could lock off certain areas that are only accessible within main missions. You don't have to have, because there's three zones in the main.
They technically
did
that
story.
in Ghost of Tsushima,
but like really lean. Do it more, and make it more substantial. Obviously, like you can go on like boats and shit in the main story and Ghost of Tsushima and stuff like that. So, I'm down for anything they do. You know what's crazy about this game though, Brian? You know how we talk about like the budget and games getting bigger and stuff. This game reportedly only cost $60 million to make.
That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem possible.
Some people have speculated it's up to 80, but that's like Reddit sort of hearsayers. But GameRanks have reported on it.
Well, that's weird because like Concord's reported like 100.
Yep.
And Astrobot, we were talking earlier in the week, Astrobot maybe like 30 to 50 million. You wouldn't think that Astrobot could be half a Ghost of Tsushima.
I think Sucker Punch was just insanely smart with what they did with this game. I think there's a lot of reusing assets.
There is a ton of reusing assets. Yeah. So the thing is like you notice as somebody who likes to talk about the game industry, but I think as a player of games, you don't really notice that much. Yeah.
And like we've just said, the expansiveness of the side content isn't that varied enough to warrant a lot of R&D in pre-production or even post-production to like figure out what they want to do and fill out this world. And again, I go back to the negative space thing I was saying. Them having that design philosophy allowed them to play fast and loose with the fact that they didn't have to fill out the map. When you're playing this game, you feel like there's a lot of just open fields.
Just riding and looking at the beautiful vistas.
Yeah. And the way they use their like the way they use their colors and their wind and their graphic engine and all that like was just mind blowing because
the flora and fauna is just mind blowing.
It's wild to me because this is one of the few games. I mean, Horizon does it a little bit as well. And I know I don't compliment that game enough, but it is a gorgeous game. And I've heard the sequel is even more gorgeous. It's almost like the environments you visit alone are your side activities. It's one of the few games that does that. It's like, oh my God, I just want to be here for like a second, 2, 3 seconds. I want to sit here for 30 seconds and just play my flute. And so like I think they were just incredibly smart with it. And reportedly, they've made revenues of 400 million at the minimum. So as of 2023, late 2023, so even more now.
Yeah, and obviously Ghost of Tsushima is like widely loved and appreciated, but I do feel like I still feel like it's kind of underappreciated because like when people go to like, the Sony big heavy hitters, you'll always hear Last of Us, God of War, and Spider-Man before you'll ever hear Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah,
and I feel like Ghost of Tsushima is kind of like in that like sub tier, but it's like this is with the big boys. Like this is on that level.
I wonder how much like the design of the game and just like the aforementioned sort of like Assassin's Creed style of it and it taking that place in the industry as like the new style of that, the better style, the prestige version of it. How much that influenced like critics and players in general to go into it with the mindset that this is just kind of an open world Ubisoft game, just with Sony doing it.
Well, okay. Let's say if I'm going to be as critical as I can possibly be, not only is the open world format and the side quest stuff we've seen before, the main narrative, while it's freaking awesome, it follows very typical like tropes. It is very much the armies came in, invaded your land, and you gotta work up the strength and build an army to take down the guy, the big bad, the chieftain, and then there's even the whole like you got to fight your uncle because of you going against your honor. We've seen stuff like that in films and stuff like in different types of media before. But what Ghost of Tsushima does is it takes all of those things we've seen before, puts them together, and does them all as good or better than everyone else has.
Yes,
I think so. Yeah, it just kind of works for it. And also, I mean, that setting, the Japan setting is, I think, something that really wasn't in Sony's portfolio at all. Yeah. But then, of course, now they got Rise of the Ronin, and people are like, well, why did you do another one? Like, you don't need 2 of those in your portfolio. But like, I think Ghost of Tsushima just fulfilled something for a lot of people. Also, the fact that it's like this American-made game, but it's like Ghost of Tsushima from like Mongol Japan, and like people in Japan love it as well, and like they did their best to like do it a good service, and they did that. And I liked it. I think it was really intelligent the way they took this grounded historical story, and twisted it with like the fact that Jin is like the storm that took out the Mongols,
representative.
That is as close to supernatural as you can get without actually being supernatural at all. And that just makes it so freaking cool. What do you think? So let's talk about characters a little bit. What do you think of? Well, first of all, Jin as a main character, I love him. I think he's great. He's got charisma. He's likable. I mean. Are you a fan of him as a main character? How does he stack up alongside Kratos and Joel and stuff like that?
So Jin to me is never been a character that's like I think is phenomenal in the sense that like he's really deep. He's got so much like moral ambiguity. Like I don't know where he stands. Like he's got all those, with being the ghost and leaning into it, and he's powerful in how he presents himself on screen. The actor did an incredible job. The writing team did an amazing job. The directing, etc., etc. But he's not as enthralling to watch on screen for me personally as obviously as someone like a Kratos or someone like a Joel. Where he shines is how he is a vehicle for the narrative as you go through.
He kind of just has that cool main character energy. Whereas, like, obviously Kratos and Joel have that too, but like Kratos it's like, oh, this history of like his family and why his skin's white and he came from Greece and all that stuff, and then like Joel, obviously that's a lot more grounded, but Joel is like this character with this internal turmoil where he's like
a dad.
He's a dad, which makes him sometimes kind of heroic, but other times kind of villainous, and like there's all this moral ambiguity. But like Jin just feels like and I think it's intentional. He feels like the stereotypical, like, oh, this is the Japanese main character who is a badass, and you love him.
So I think they intentionally, when they created Jin, they wanted him to start off as a very blank canvas. When you play as him at the start, he's very just like, he's very archetypal hero's journey. I am samurai kind of guy. Like he's like, I must find my uncle. I must do this. I must do that. But as you go through, the game alongside you starts to like present yourself onto Jin. The narrative gets presented onto Jin in tangent, and you start to like kind of become this unified thing where you start to realize that like Jin's not exactly right morally, just like, Lord Shimura, his uncle, says consistently once you rescue him. But he's not exactly wrong at the same time. Like
that's what I love about it, dude, because morally it's interesting because you could say he's morally wrong, but mechanically the only way Tsushima is going to survive is by what he's doing. But at the same time, for as much as we talk about morals or honor, they show you that his uncle would be dishonorable as long as it was in secret to serve his narrative. He wanted Jin he wanted, I think it's Yuna. He wanted Yuna to take the fall for all of Jin's antics, so that he could that his adoptive son could remain honorable. And it's like, well, bro, like that just shows you're willing to not be truly honorable and to bend things to fit your narrative. So there's all these layers to like, okay, because on one hand you could be like, oh, Jin's so cool, I'm glad he's going against his uncle. And on the other hand, you could be like, oh, I wish Jin would be more honorable because his uncle loves him and I want them to be cool. And then there's the third option where it's like, well, wait a minute, his uncle's not even really fully like honorable. He has his own agenda. So, and it makes you kind of,
When you add in the fact that Yuna was kind of the one to kind of sow the seed in Jin to make him do what he does throughout the, when he first kills that guard on patrol in the outpost, when he's trying to rescue, they're looking for Taka, which is Yuna's brother. But obviously he's not in this camp, but he gets like a lead on where Taka is. It's like, she sows the seed, so it's like, should she have like taken the fall for Jin? Should she have like, but obviously that didn't happen. And it's one of those things where like this narrative almost like has a level of dramatic irony in it that's not like exactly perceivable to the player, in that like we know what's going on and we know what's going to happen in the sense that Jin's going to go all the way with this like dishonorable approach because he wants to save Tsushima and by extension Japan.
He's going to break bad.
But ultimately it's not in like how it ends, it's not in where we're going with it, but it's like obviously the route in which it happens. I mean, you go through it and it's kind of like an almost fall to villainy, a fall from grace in many ways. Like you start where it's kind of like this like really it shakes Jin up massively. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. And then it gets to a point where he's acting completely out of revenge in many ways. And he's like, he's channeling serious sense of like hatred and almost like teenage angst in many ways and stuff. And by the end of it, like there's not a level of this person's wrong, this person's right. You're constantly going back and forth between the morally grey thing. And like you said with Lord Shimura, the coolest thing about it is like you said, the honor side of it, where he wants Yuna to take the fall from grace. Like there's an element of that character in and of himself that is showcasing a side of the samurai that is hypocritical and innately flawed. That leans into why the Mongols are able to invade them and destroy them and completely destabilize their structure. And it kind of leans into the historical side of samurais, because samurais, while they were honorable on the outside, they were a class-based system and they looked down upon people the peasantry that were just basically just pieces of shit, and even in combat, they would use kunai, which is throwing knives. They would kick sand in each other's faces. It wasn't as honorable as people make it out to be, under, like this Bushido sort of nostalgia, like, how would you say, revisionist history in many ways. So it's a mind-blowing tale and story that like balances so well between historical grounded nature and like just a heightened sense of reality / fantasy in many ways.
Yeah.
And I just love it. I think it's great.
I was really appreciative of how the story went down because, as you know me, like, well, first of all, I hadn't planned to play this game years ago, but you know me, I like to spoil myself ahead of time. That's just how I am. And I knew a lot of what was going to happen. I knew like he was going to do dishonorable things and his uncle was going to want him to be, to stop that. And there was going to be strife between them. And it was going to come down to them too. But what surprised me is that, so when I was first doing like, assassinating people and stuff like that, I thought, man, whenever we get to the point that he encounters his uncle, shit's going to go sideways. And then we get to the point he encounters his uncle's just like, yeah, I've heard about some of that shit you've been doing. That's not honorable. Let's quit that.
Yep.
And then he just moves on. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't expect that. Like, I thought it was going to be this huge, like, stop now or you will die. No, it was very much like, I heard it. I understand, but no, hit him on the hand. Like, stop it, Jin.
Yeah.
And then you play a little bit more and it gets a little further in the story. And he's like, I told you to stop doing that. You got to stop doing that, bro.
Yeah.
But okay, well, I won't keep talking about it. But then you keep doing it, and then finally it gets to a point where like he's still doing it. It's been done on a massive scale in front of people now. It can't be hidden. And he's like, fuck, like, okay, well, that's when he's like, oh, let's push it on to Yuna. And it's like, and then even at the end, when they're like fighting each other, I envisioned in my head that there was going to be like hate between them. And there really wasn't. It was just love on both ends.
Weird, right? Like it's a weird. It's that scene at the end, because that scene, from what I remember, because it's been, like I said, it's been years since I played Ghost of Tsushima, so you might have to correct me on this, but it goes from fighting the boss, the Khan, to basically immediately into that.
It's basically like, well, there's like a little bit of respite, and then it's like, yo, I want you to come meet me here, and then you meet, and then it's basically like, we have to do this because
the Shogun. But that's what's crazy about that final scene. There's no, I debate with it to this day with my buddy, like, and other people who play it. It's like that ending scene is like, that ending set piece is like, where do I stand on this? Like, because it's a scene of such mixed emotion, like
Tsushima is only surviving now because of what Jin's done.
Because of what Jin's done,
the Shogun and like the samurai, like they can only enjoy their honor in this place because of what Jin's done.
Yes.
But at the same time, if their code meant anything to them on a serious level, they shouldn't just stand for it.
Yeah.
But we've also seen his uncle be hypocritical. So it's like, well, maybe they could just stand for it. And it begs all these questions. And it gives you the option to choose too, which is crazy.
What's wild about it as well is that like this game narratively is not just based on Kurosawa in terms of like the cinematography and the style of like things always have to move in frame. The art style is not just based on Kurosawa's stuff. Also, like narratively, like the themes that are present. There's one theme that is ever present always, or not always, but mostly always through Kurosawa's movies. If you've watched them, it's like the sort of old guard and the new guard, right? And the new guard kind of coming in and to replace it, but the old guard being a bit sort of I don't know, like oppositional towards that in various ways, not just physical, but philosophical and stuff, and ideological. And that's the case in the Seven Samurai. That's the case in Ghost of Tsushima. And when you play Ghost of Tsushima, you feel all that throughout the game. And it's like this game, like people think, oh yeah, it's a samurai game and it's a love letter to Kurosawa because it's a samurai game and it kind of is shot very similarly with similar camera angles and lighting and color and stuff. But ultimately, it's more than that. Like the narrative is completely and utterly Kurosawa, and it's gorgeous because of it. And the wildest thing is it's a AAA game doing a style like that. Like normally when you get a AAA game from a Sony, from a Ubisoft, from not that they're the same in any way, in my opinion, from an Xbox or whatever, it's a it never feels like it can go this art house. Like it always feels like it has to be a bit more, right, we got to stick to what we know, be iterative, don't go crazy with the artistic vision.
But you get the best of both worlds because it has the art house side, but it also has this is just super fun gameplay to just kill freaking dudes like crazy.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
So what do we think, kind of to conclude, what do we think the direction will be for the sequel? So my first question for you would be, do you think they make a canon choice on whether you killed your uncle or not? And if not, how do they honor both decisions? What do you think?
I don't know, because like whenever you do that, I mean, I was listening to a Todd Howard. You know what I listen to every so often? Not every so often, but I've listened to twice now. Is the Todd Howard interview between him and Mr. Matty Plays.
Okay, I listened to it once.
Yeah, I've listened to it twice now. I listened to it recently when I was playing Minecraft because it was just chill to listen to. And he was like, whenever we try and take an ending and like make a sequel to it, because he was talking about like New Vegas 2 and stuff like that, right? It was one of those things. He says, like, we always try and lean away from that because it annoys people. Obviously, it's something that players hold very close to their hearts. And I totally agree with him. Obviously, it's right. It's objectively true that what he says. But how do you make a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima without picking one of those endings as canon? Because like, you can leave it ambiguous. You can write a narrative where Jin doesn't speak about it. Lord Shimura, your uncle, is basically never mentioned, or if he is mentioned, it's one of those things where it's like the day them two fought or something like that, right? Yeah. But ultimately, there's gotta, like, it depends on the narrative as well, because if the narrative leans into continuing fighting the Mongol invasion, right, and it goes to mainland Japan or whatever, I don't know what it does, right? Then maybe you can get around it a bit more. You can skirt around it and keep it secretive. And Lord Shimura is never involved in the game ever. And Jin truly becomes like a ghost, right? Which is the intention of any of the... I think that's the intention of Jin, regardless of the ending, right? He's going to become this like sort of shadowy figure to watch over people. And I think that... Or they can go the other way, which is what I would prefer, them really lean into like him becoming ostracized by his own people, and he only has a small group of people that he can rely on as a cell sort of structure, Yuna and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And everyone else around him, so like the samurai included, the Mongols, if they're still around at this point, I don't know, like depends how far they go. Are they going to be hostile in the open world? And are you fighting samurai in the second game? If they go that way, I think you have to mention Lord Shimura, and I think he becomes this... I think what they do is they introduce like a shogun character into the game that is like kind of a main antagonist in many ways. And Shimura becomes this kind of hesitant, obliged advisor to the shogun. And that creates a moral division in Jin as he goes through, where he's maybe taking the fight to the shogun at the same time as the Mongols, but he's also like doesn't want to encroach on Shimura's feet and step on his feet more than he has, and that's what holds him back from really going at the shogun. So I don't know. There's two narratives there that I can feel like is played out. I don't know. Obviously, it'll probably be something completely different, but
I like a lot what you want for the game. I think what I had envisioned was they will honor both decisions, and Shimura won't be a huge part of the story. I think they could go as far as to like, so you'd have like levels to it, right? Like on a base level, you'd have like, if Shimura's mentioned, it'd be like, me and my uncle had a falling out or something like that. And it's like, okay, that could mean he's dead, or that could mean they just had a falling out. But then there would also be an element of the game where they directly addressed it in a choice, in a way that paid homage to your choice, which it could be if you let him live, there's a quest where we go and we, somehow have a conversation with him or write a letter to him, whatever.
Right.
Or if you killed him, you visit his grave and pay, you know what I mean? Like pay homage to both.
Like a Witcher 3 kind of job. Yeah.
Yeah. And basically have what happened with Shimura have a large impact on the story, but the impact is more on the fact that you went against him rather than he died or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then they can pay homage to, which choice at the beginning of the game, which choice did you choose? Did you let Shimura die in honor, or did you let him live, or whatever? And pay homage to both, but and have it be referential, but take the story in a direction that doesn't involve him being a consistent player. Do you think Ghost of Tsushima will be called Ghost of Tsushima, or will it be Ghost of a different name? Will it be Ghost of Tsushima 2? Will it be Ghost of Tsushima subtitle? What are we thinking?
Subtitle? They're gonna keep Tsushima because it's brand recognition and franchisation.
It's hard to sell people like regular normal people.
Ghost of Japan. You can't. It's gonna be like, what? Eh?
Yeah.
But Ghost of Tsushima. But I think you're gonna have a subtitle like, I don't know, Ghost of Tsushima Vengeance or something edgy.
Ghost of Tsushima Scourge of the Mainland.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like that.
I like it.
Take that one,
6 words
punch.
though.
It's got wordy, isn't it? Doesn't exactly catch. But I think it's subtitled. I mean, Horizon Forbidden West had a different name to it, so maybe they could play with it. Like, okay, so like that kind of like brings it back around and makes me like self-analyze because like.
But the difference is Horizon was Horizon :
I guess
Zero Dawn. Yeah. This is not a colon, so. If they called it, even if they called it like Ghost of, let's say it's some other, like it wouldn't be Ghost of Japan, it'd probably be some other name I don't know from over there, but Ghost of Awasaka, it's like that would be hard for like them, like just somebody going to Walmart and being like, there's a new, does that have anything to do with Ghost of Tsushima? I liked that game 5 years ago. You wouldn't want that. So I think you're probably right just because of, I don't know if it's the best idea, but as far as brand recognition goes, it probably will be Ghost of Tsushima subtitle. I don't think they'll use a 2, but then again, maybe look at Kurosawa movies. Did they ever use sequels like a number 2 in the title or anything? Like maybe they would use that for inspiration.
No, as far as I'm aware, the only time he ever used a number was in words when he, the Seven Samurai. So it was like,
I think like a Ghost of Tsushima Twin Pass or something like that. That could be like a good subtitle, or.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima Shogun or something. I don't know,
Shogun,
something.
Ghost
around
of Tsushima Shogun villa. Legacy.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But dude, I mean,
Shogun Rising, Shogun Origins. No, we don't want to do that. No.
Yeah, we don't want to go like too edgy with it,
Okay, when do you think Ghost of Tsushima 2 will be announced, and what year do you think it'll come out?
Well, I said to you like a while back. Well, not a while back. It was a week ago. I said to you like, imagine if they announced the PS5 Pro and Ghost of Tsushima 2 at the same showcase.
See, I don't think it's happening now.
It's not happening. No, it's definitely not happening now because Mark Cerny is doing a fucking tech sort of press conference for 10 minutes.
Mark Cerny is going to talk about the PS5 Pro and how the cooling system got him off. Like, there's no, he's not going to announce a game.
Yeah, no, yeah. So. I just don't. I mean, that would have been such an amazing time. Imagine that for his fucking showcase. Holy fuck! And
maybe he'll have Knack 3.
Yay!
Mark Cerny loves Knack.
Jesus Christ! This is why you don't have hardware men making your franchises. Yeah, dude. So I don't know when it could be released.
When will it be announced and when will it be released? You didn't say when you think. Do you think it'll be announced this year?
I hope it's announced this year. I really want it to be. I mean, this year's been a rather weak year, a very weak year for Sony AAA.
Yeah, I feel like if they don't announce it this year, they got to at least announce some other big first party. Yes. And I feel like this is the next one due. So if it's not this year,
I'm trying to think like what else is actually. I mean, they've already announced. Like, if Death Stranding 2 wasn't announced, it'd been like, okay, well, we're waiting on something from Kojima. But that guy like splurged his load really quickly with like.
They could just double down on more Death Stranding 2.
Yeah. But I just don't think they will. I think there's got to be an announcement, at least a title card drop. So I think later this year, you're going to get an announcement for it, whether it's a title card drop or a little teaser trailer, completely CG maybe, most likely. And then when is it going to be released? 2026, 2027?
Ooh, that's really far out. Wow.
Yeah.
Yikes. I do think, unfortunately, it's going to be 2026. I'm thinking summer. Summer 2026. I'm going to go with they'll announce it this year. But you know what they could do? They could announce instead this year. They could announce their big game could be Insomniac's Wolverine. Because that's probably coming out in a year from now.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that game, to be honest, dude. Because there's been like
or
nothing
Venom.
on it.
There's the rumored Venom game. Yeah.
Oh God, I'm sick of Venom, dude. Like anything Venom in movies or games, like just it's the only Spider-Man villain that just like keeps coming up, and I find him the most bland character.
Well, I don't know if you're like me at all, but like when I was a kid, Venom was the coolest villain, but they keep running him into the ground where I'm just sick of him now. And like that's not like a pessimistic.
Yeah,
that's not like a pessimistic like, oh, I'm sick of him now. It's like no, genuinely, like I had more fun with Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal than I did Venom. Because it was something new, something
100%, something different. But yeah, I think the month you picked lines up as well. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima on the PS4 came out in 2020 of 17th of July, which was 17th of July 2020.
In 6 years, that's a long development time. I mean, of course, they did do the DLC, which is probably at least a year, if not more.
Yeah. And obviously they had to work on that multiplayer mode like a little bit after launch as well. So, and then you had the director's cut. When did the director's cut actually come out?
That was only like 2 years ago or something. I think not too long ago.
Yeah, and then you had the PC launch in
Which
May
is like
of
less
this
like
year.
6 months ago, or not even 6 months ago.
Yeah. So it seems like Ghost of Tsushima, the way they do it, and Sucker Punch do it with these launches, is they always launch middle kind of the year, because I think they let. I think Ghost of Tsushima and Sucker Punch, and Sony, they still see Sucker Punch as kind of their B tier studio, which I think is unfair. But they like, as in, they don't launch at the end of the year because things like The Last of Us or an Insomniac game or a Ragnarok, God of War. Those are your end of the year holiday games that they want to get out then because they know everyone's going to go crazy for them for Christmas. So yeah, middle of the year, nice little spot for them. They have never had as much issues as Horizon has had when it comes to launching at poor times for sales. So I think they'll be fine. But yeah,
literally Horizon Zero Dawn, Breath of the Wild, and then Tears of the Kingdom, freaking Elden Ring.
I mean, the thing is since the original game of Ghost of Tsushima, it's been so long that I wouldn't be surprised if they drop a trailer later this year and they're like, 2025, boys. That's me being pipeline as fuck.
Let me throw you for a loop here. What if they drop a trailer and their next game's Infamous?
I'm done. I'm going home. Oh, I'm leaving.
Wouldn't that be so sad? Like Infamous 3.
Bro, Ghost of Tsushima was like them going, right, we need to move away from Infamous now because like this is getting long.
Well, I guess it'd be Infamous 4, technically. They just didn't call 3. They called it Second Son.
Yeah, true.
But
I don't want that series anymore, bro. Like, if you're going to go back, Sly. Go and do Sly.
Yeah, right.
We don't
I'd
want
rather have
Infamous.
Sly than... I don't really like Infamous. Yeah.
I mean, it would fit perfectly alongside like a year after Astrobot as well. So like mascots are coming back and stuff. It'd be perfect for it, like platforming. Oh, that'd be so sick. But
it's like, it's photorealistic Sly, like Ghost of Tsushima graphics. Oh,
it's gonna be like that. The original like Jack and Daxter when they cancelled it, Naughty Dog, Jack and Daxter.
Oh, that one, Naughty Dog. Yeah. They worked on it, and they're like, "Nah, we're not."
And
it
looked weird and stuff, and it was like, we can't do this.
Sly Cooper's like a sad dad to a little raccoon.
Sly Cooper's got he's in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's like shaved. He's got like a really horrible beard, and he's got bags under his eyes, and he's like, "Oh, what? What do you want?"
Absolutely. That, I don't know, man. I think it's going to be Ghost of Tsushima 2, though. I cannot believe... If they put out this game... This is like part of Sony's big like lineup of their heavy AAA games. Like, why would you pivot back to Infamous?
Yeah. No.
But...
they sold way more with this, so yeah.
Any final thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima before we get out of here, Joe?
No, I don't think I've ever asked you, though, or I've asked you on this episode, or any other episode. What was your favorite stance?
Man, I think it was the last one you unlock. I think it was like a Berserk or something.
Oh, Berserk, yeah, where you fight the shield boys. Not the shield boys, the big boys.
I think you have one up high and one down low, I think. Yeah.
Wait, your character dual wields? Damn.
No, maybe he does. Does he? Yeah, I don't know why. He just keeps his hand down low, I guess. I don't know.
He just like, it's for grabbing the balls, like
it's for cupping the balls,
cupping the jewels, Mine was spear. I love spear.
The spear was awesome too.
The whirlwind stance, I think it was called.
What's your favorite? I mean, I think we already covered it. What's your favorite moment of the story? I mean, it's the ending, right? That's what it is for me. I mean,
you know what? No.
Okay.
That is second. But my favorite part of the game, when I knew this game was special, it was the same thing with God of War 2018. When I played God of War 2018, I knew that game was going to be special as soon as Jormungandr came out of the water. I was this shit is fire. Ghost of Tsushima was earlier on than that. It was when you ride and the title card drops like it's a fucking TV show.
Oh, that's a beautiful
and
moment.
The music comes and you see that lake and the I get chills thinking about it, bro. Like, it's so
that's the moment when
fire.
the developers were like, we're going to be like, yeah, our game's good. You just wait.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, we know what we got here.
One of the fucking, I think it was like 120 people or some shit that worked on this game, not many, just like the budget. One of those motherfuckers cried when they played that, when it got printed, when the game went gold and they played it, and they were like, they did a Cory Barlog and they were crying. They were like,
in tears already.
This is beautiful, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Absolutely great moment. Ghost of Tsushima, 9 out of 10 from both of us. Absolutely a mandatory game to play if you're a PlayStation fan. One of the best on the console. What would we say, like, are the top 5, as far as success and notoriety, top 5 IPs on PlayStation? Because God of War, Last
of Us. Are we talking our own subjective take? Or are we talking like biggest, as in?
We're going objective more. Yeah. Like, does Ghost of Tsushima make it in the top 5? Like, if we're being objective. Because Spider-Man probably beats it too. So
are we talking critical or commercial success here? This is the thing.
I'm going to say integral to PlayStation as a brand. Make of that what you want.
Okay.
It's probably Last of Us, God of War, Spider-Man.
I think Horizon's there.
Horizon, sadly, which sucks,
it has to be
man.
there, and I don't like that.
Screw Robo Dinosaurs, man. Is number 5 Ghosts, or is there something where, I mean, it's not...
I'm trying to think, like, what?
It's not Bloodborne or Demon Souls.
No.
It's not Returnal.
I wouldn't say it's even
Ratchet.
Astrobot yet.
It's not Astro.
I'm trying to think. Like, I
Maybe
think the
fifth
5th one is up for debate. I really do. Like, let me go. Hang on. Like, PlayStation, because I'm blanking here. IPs. Let's have a little look. So we have Last of Us, Ghost, Horizon, Days Gone, no. Ratchet and Clank, no. Returnal, no. Helldivers doesn't really count. Death Stranding, I'd like to put it there, but that'd be my bias.
It's probably the 5 spot then. Ghost of Tsushima.
I mean, it has to be, right?
And I would put. I mean, personally, for me, it's above Spider-Man, but
yeah,
but not for the general public, of course. But
yeah, I've got it. Yeah, I think Ghost is. It's weird though, because I think collectively Ratchet and Clank, no doubt, is higher than Ghost. Like, I have to, but at the same time,
you think that's more integral to the brand than Ghost of Tsushima? Like, I feel like if we never got another Ratchet again, I don't know if anyone would care that much. Well, I mean, people would care. Don't get me wrong, but
it's weird because Rift Apart, as far as I'm aware, didn't sell that well comparatively to previous titles. But Ratchet and Clank is like rooted in. But then again, you could say Uncharted, but we aren't getting any more. Like,
true, yeah. Uncharted would be above Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah,
it's got to be, right. Like,
yeah. Ghost of Tsushima probably doesn't make the top 5. That's the sad truth of it. It probably doesn't.
I mean,
Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War, Spider-Man. Yeah. So,
yeah, but it's right behind them. It's right behind.
It deserves it though. It deserves it.
Yeah. Maybe with the second one, we can then put it in there.
Yeah, maybe. All right, guys. Well, that's been another episode of Critical Frames Plus. If you're listening to this on free feeds, if you want to get these episodes early, they are made exclusively for our patrons. Go to patreon.com/criticalframes. If you want to support us there, it's only $5. It's the only tier we have. Nice and simple. If you want to leave us a voicemail or an email, send it to criticalframes@gmail.com. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, follow us at Critical Frames. But that's been another good episode. This feels good having Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, and Final Fantasy VII Remake under our belt. That's a good catalog there.
Brian, I take back my 5th pick.
What is it?
Gran Turismo.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is integral to the brand. You're right.
Best-selling series in PlayStation.
Yeah. Like, we might not talk about it much like in the gaming industry, but it's integral.
It's big. It's huge. Yeah.
The best-selling game on the PS1.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Mind-blowingly good series, though.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Critical Frames, and we will see you soon. Peace, guys.
Peace. Critical Frames, a PlayStation podcast, is created in partnership between Brian Arvett and myself, Joe Smalley. It's available on all mainstream audio and video feeds. All music featured in the show is by Caleb Webster. We're incredibly grateful to the following All Access Pass patrons for the support they've shown for this independent venture: Boba's Feet, Darren.jpg, Diente D. Hombre, Irish Phoenix, and Music Tree.